Welcome to the Body Aware Living podcast. I'm Margo Rose, author of Body Aware Grieving, a fitness trainer's guide to caring for your health during sad times. And we're here to talk with kind and wise people from around the world. We're looking for practical ways to get through difficult challenges and to celebrate our accomplishments. And today we're going to have just a wonderful, charming, incredibly wise woman to be talking with. Steph Johnson, can you just give a little tiny information about the amazing work that you're doing?
Sure. So my name is Steph Johnson, and I am the CEO, creative director, and co-founder of Voices of Our City Choir, which is a choir I started in 2016 for people experiencing homelessness in San Diego. We use music as the medium to build real bonds and friendship that have led to like 85 people moving off the street, a full network of support. It's a beautiful choir. It's a beautiful transformational project, and I'm so happy I'm honored to be a part of it and be the director of it. It's amazing.
I mean, that part of the story alone is so fascinating that you just sort of started off just because you're a singer. You and your husband are in a jazz. What's the name of your band with you and your husband?
I just performed a lot under my name, Steph Johnson, and my husband, Rob Thorson. If it's Rob's gig, then it's Rob's band. If it's my gig, it's the Steph band. But we were playing a lot and performing, and that's how I got a lot of real creative work experience. You know, I wrote my own songs, did a lot of gigs. I want to get to how we met and some of that story because it's amazing, but just for people to really understand that you just took your guitar down to some of the homeless. I mean, okay, first of all, you don't refer to people, you refer to people as being unsheltered and not homeless. Is that accurate? Yes. So
okay, that's a respectful distinction to just refer to people however they want, whatever is they most request.
And the reason why is because when we just put everybody into a category, the homeless, it kind of perpetuates this narrative and this thinking, and all of that complicates the work that needs to be done. We need to see the individual. Every one of us is an individual. Yeah. So we, know folks' names and we know more about them as an individual, but we do like to say our unsheltered neighbor or the someone experiencing homelessness as opposed to the homeless.
That distinction sounds much more temporary, and it makes so much sense. And so you just sort of took your guitar and went down to go hang out with people and keep them company and sing some favorite songs because you have a huge nonprofit organization now with a huge reach in part, and we want to get to this because you went from you with a guitar, like deciding to go cheer up and connect with some people who were nearby and ready to sing with you, and it went from that to right after we met. You were getting ready to go on America's Got Talent, like one of the biggest shows on NBC. And you guys I'll have to link the video to this. You guys performing as a choir on one of the, amazing show, NBC, and you guys get the golden buzzer and everyone's ecstatic. I can't see it without crying. I mean, I'll have to over and over again. How many? It's just so moving.
So I started this outreach where I wanted to really get to know the people that were living unsheltered in my neighborhood. I felt a kinship because of my own childhood. Circumstances are out of our control. And when I first started the choir, I was educating myself, going to city council meetings, going to any community meeting, and learning that the current approach was to put people in jail. People who, and as we all know, the cost of living has gone up, wages have not matched that. There's systemic racism, there's all sorts of things like, healthcare, like so many things that have made it really, really hard to get out of homelessness without an advocate. It's pretty much impossible. You're suffering PTSD, trauma every day. You're trying to survive. And so I just really felt, I knew that they didn't have a voice. And I knew that because during outreach that I did one day, one of the many days, I met a gentleman who invited me into his tent, and he said what was going on in his life. And I was pretty green in the beginning. I was like going to city council meetings and I was angry. I was like fed up that this was our people say band-aid approach, but really inhumane, unjust approach. So I was sitting in his tent and he was telling me what was going on in his life. And I said, come on, I said, well, I'll stand with you. I said, let's revolt, let's march down the street together. And he just looked at me and just was like, it doesn't matter because we don't have a voice. And that just so echoed in my brain, right? And then the next day I met a woman who, meeting as a creative singer to singer. She was also a singer. Pretty much everybody has a creative piece to them. So that's how we're bonding, right? And she said, oh, you're a singer? She said, Google my name. And so I Googled her name and she'd been singing in a choir in like Atlanta or some other state. And I was like, wow, a choir for people that are so separated by the experience, so disenfranchised, so like suffering, to actually have a choir. I was like, well, that's an amazing idea. And then literally a couple hours later, I met this pastor, Chris Nafis downtown, who said, you can use our warehouse church for anything. And it blurted, it came through me. It was like a magical day. I talk about it in interviews because, I saw this horrible situation happening that we all see. And I knew that I could bridge. I could use my connections or my voice or my resources, and I could explain to the wealthy, unknowing, politician or upset business owner. I could kind of connect the person in the tent to an understanding. I could get, and anyways. So I prayed, and I don't always do this, but I dropped to my knees in my bedroom around this time. And I said, hey, God, whatever you call God. I was like, hey, God, just so you know, I see what's happening. And just want you to know that I'm here. I'm here to be your, your instrument, like whatever you want to do, I'm yours. And God was all, are you sure?
Right.
Because it's going to be hard.
Yeah.
And I was, so like, yes. And I even said I was willing to die for it. I felt in my soul I was ready to die for it, which when we met, and I'm jumping around, but when we met, you met me at one of my sickest moments, because in building anything, you tend to give every piece of yourself when you really feel it, right? You do all the aspects of building a business, an organization, a mission. And I didn't have self-care down. And I also was sacrificing so much of my own needs to help many, many people in crisis that it would make me sick every year. Either my body would break down, my mind would break down. And then when we met, my body was breaking down, and I was really sick with, I think, COVID, before COVID hit, actually.
Oh, well, that was bronchitis. I think you'd had months and months of like bronchitis.
Right. But I had all the symptoms now that, like, I lost my sense of taste and smell. I was in and out of the hospital. I was on and off bed rest for like about 7 months. And so when we went and did AGT,
America's Got Talent is
America's Got Talent. I actually went in a wheelchair to one of those, to the last taping. I was like really sick. My body was done. And so at the end of all that, I actually ended up having like a mental breakdown where I just like lost it. And I was just really depressed. Everything went really dark. So then I had to pull away, and I had to learn self-care. I had to learn this piece that I hadn't really mastered yet. And you gave me so many good nuggets. That's why I'm talking to you today, because I'll text you every once in a while, and I'll like say the little nuggets of info you gave me, and how you, just coached me and helped me and gave me just really nice pieces of wise things to try and add to my life. And it helped a lot. And so I'm a different version of me now.
Oh my goodness. I mean, I'm glad you brought that up, because a big part of what I'm passionate about is caring for the caregiver. How do we help the people who are trying to take care of others sustain themselves and plan for the longer journey of being able to help without depleting themselves? Because it's true, when we met, you could barely leave the bedroom. You were wearing, your bathrobe, and we had just met through mutual friends. And I was in your house, and I was like, hey, you were like upset that you weren't in the condition physically that you were used to being in. And you were super discouraged. And then this whole big audition was coming up, that you were going to, like, where you were and what you were trying to accomplish by a certain date was looking very, very stressful. And one of the things I wanted us to do, and it seemed like it worked, is I was like, let's come up with 3 exercises that you can do right now. And
in bed.
In
You
bed,
gave me
right?
something to
I
do
said,
in bed.
where are you? You're in bed. Let's go there, and let's figure out 1 or 2 exercises that you can do where you are. And then we got on your floor. I think we got on your floor, and we were like dancing around. So we put some good music on, and we were like dancing around while you were like sitting on your floor. And I was like, wherever you are, however you are, if you can find something that says, I can at least do this for my body now. And even though I'm used to X amount of being an athlete, normally right now, this is what I need to do to sustain my fitness while I'm trying to get healthy.
And a part of my, the thing that I had to figure out was, I kept pushing myself. I'd get a little bit better, and then I'd keep pushing myself, because I come from a let's do it, let's move this mountain, let's build this thing, let's do the unthinkable and the impossible. And I was not in the shape to do that anymore. And it was like, I didn't know who I was anymore. I didn't, so much was unraveling because I didn't have my strength, my energy, my mind, like things were really at a funky spot for me personally. And we were having this huge success. The nonprofit's growing. Now we auditioned for America's Got Talent. We ended up getting the golden buzzer for our original song, Sounds at the Sidewalk, which was written out of a beautiful workshop of outreach that we do with people living on the street, writing their song, writing their experiences of being homeless. So we did that song for millions of people, and millions of people continue to support us through the show. And we made it to the semifinals. And this is a group of people who, some were still living on the street. Some people were in low income housing. Some people were living out of their cars still. And here we were in this totally loved on experience, that was so transformative to all of them, but also our nonprofit. It put us on the map in a big way. It
really did. I mean, I remember we met right before all that blew up, and we were saying, there was something we were talking about that you mentioned as you were getting you went from hoping to have a little exposure to being super famous. In one performance, you made this huge leap. And so one of the things we were working on when we were on your bedroom floor, and we were dancing from the floor because you didn't have energy to stand up and dance. And
when you say dancing on the floor, I was literally, I could only lay on my back, and I was moving my arms like this.
I call that the flailing bug. It's good for abs, and it's great for people who are possibly prone to vertigo or dizziness, because you're not going to fall. You're lying on your back. It's really good for circulation, for cardio, for people who have foot issues and swelling. Your feet are often up in the air. I was glad we could start with that. But one of the ways to give you a bridge between there and where you were going was this idea that you mentioned you were able to utilize, called red, yellow, green, yellow, red. We were talking about how to figure out whether or not you have what you have available to offer others right now. And so the green zone I was talking about, when you're feeling pretty good, you're all right. You're pretty close to whatever functional means for you, physical wellness, but also, what you have to offer in your life right now. Green zone, you're feeling pretty good. You're all right. Yellow zone, you're I am not feeling and functioning at my best, and I need to be really careful. I have to not take on too many responsibilities, be careful. My circle of concern needs to come in, and I need to make sure I'm caring the most for myself. And then only the group of people I can really afford to expend energy with. You have to be a little more skillful. Yellow zone's kind of analytical, but red zone is the place people don't, especially caregivers, don't realize I'm the one in the red zone. Red zone is I'm the one who needs help. I can't volunteer to help other people right now, other than an absolute emergency, perhaps. I'm the one who needs care now, and I need to ask for help or receive help to get care now. And so how to decide what you're capable of at any time with the least amount of feeling guilty about it. It's sort of a mathematical thing, are you feeling well enough to do the tasks that you're trying to do, or do you need to postpone those or get help or do something else right now and not feel bad, not waste your limited energy feeling bad that you're not doing more. I think that's something that people can, anyhow. So you mentioned that idea of green, yellow, red was something you were able to refer back to.
Well, it was super, I just remember when you told me that and you said, Steph, you're like, so you're used to flying at green. You're used to like making life happen, but you're in a red, you're in crisis, like your body's shut down. And every time you start to feel a little better, right? You go at it like you're in the green, but you're pushing yourself back down into the red. And that was like, I don't know, that was some genius, wise words that were dropped in my bedroom that day. And yeah, and when you say like, when you're in the yellow, you know, you're not a green, you're not fully functioning, but that circle of concern comes in. And I've really gotten better at that. I can tell, I can feel. And also like my lovely coworkers, you know, they're also helped me in seeing when I'm, you know, having maybe a hard day or something's like I'm, you know, you can feel when things start to kind of, oh, I'm not really making the decisions that well anymore. And things are, you know, I need to eat. I need to push away. I need to go for a walk. I need to do something else like that. I need to not take on things that add to my concern and my stress level. I need to actually like talk to them another day and just focus on my, you know, bringing that circle of concern in. So I love it. I love it. And I use it all the time. And I share it. I share it with people because people do that. People push. You keep pushing. And life doesn't really give you the space so much to do that, you know? I mean, if you think pre-pandemic, you had to prove to your employer that you were sick. If you weren't feeling well, you were like, oh, we need a doctor's note, right? Now the time has like changed. It's like, oh, you have a cold, you're sniffing, like stay away for 2 weeks. You know what I mean? And you don't have to prove it so much. Or maybe now we're talking more about mental health because we're all going through this period of, you know, separation, isolation, and exhaustion from being in this thing we're all in. So I feel like conversations have opened up more around care and self-care, even all the way up to like board meetings and presentations. Like I'm talking about, and that's so much about what we do with the choir. That's so much of what's working.
Stuff's always going on. That's like the little reminder that stuff's always going on, you know. There's always somebody having a bad day in the background. You know, that ambulance or fire truck is like, that's the thing about the caregiving. There's always somebody having a hard day. And the desire to want to hop in and help is always there. And so what you're talking about is the pacing of yourself. And I want to, we had a conversation after things you started to have all this media attention right after America's Got Talent. And all of a sudden you were like, you were feeling better. You were in green or yellow. And you were like, we had a kind of a coaching kind of call. And you were like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And you laid out like 5 years worth of effort that you were doing like in the next month or two or the next 6 months, and all these offers for things and getting it while it's hot. And I was just like, wow. And then we were talking about how to have longevity for your wellness. And I suggested something. I'm not sure how well you implemented it. It looks like you kind of have, but I wanted something to sound kind of radical. I said, okay, so if you're going to go long distance, long term with this long problem that won't be solved, homeless, you know, I mean, unshelteredness and people's, you know, bridging that is going to be a while, right? So that I said something like, what did I say? It was something like, what if you had 5 days off per month that were just self-care? And I was speaking sort of in code. I mean, any woman here knows what we're talking about. We're talking about 5 days a month where you're not caring for anybody else. You're on vacation with your husband or at home under the covers, guilt-free. Or I talked about, is there a way, since you have all this attention and it's going to be a lot, is there a way to pace yourself where you have, I wanted it to sound like more than you might actually do. So even if you came up with 3 or 4 days in a row, or maybe they were separated, but midweek, 1 or 2 days totally off, because you look great and your organization's blossomed and you seem to have paced yourself terrific. That was like 2 years ago, more than 2 years ago. So how have you done that? How have you sustained your wellness? Because you're looking fantastic and your posts about what you're accomplishing are so impressive.
Well, I, in building the nonprofit, did a couple things. I ate a lot. I stopped working out, and then I started drinking again, which I hadn't been drinking for about 9 years. So I was like, oh, I'm going to try this again. Let's see if this is, no, absolutely not. I shouldn't be doing that. But that all kind of culminated with like a weakened immune system, and I was overweight, and I was like, just, my vessel was not in a good spot. So I did a few things. I joined Noom, which was really, really helpful. That's like more about the psychology around food, and it offers you like this insight to your body and hormones and nutrition that was so helpful. And then I kind of had my two besties, my girlfriends. We all kind of started at the same time working out. My friend Mandy and Angelina. And we just stayed in touch with each other and supported each other and kept buying cute little workout outfits and just like doing it and just trying and doing it. And so as the weight came off, my energy came back, and also the workouts, right? Like I do something now pretty much every day. I do like a lot of HIIT workout. I hike, I paddleboard, I cycle, I do yoga, I walk. I just love it, you know, and I know it's my time and it's my sacred time. And now I wake up super early, which I used to not, but I get up about 5:30 and I go and I do it. I go and work out, and then I have so much energy, and I have so much like peace and calm during hard times. I think when I don't have the peace and I don't feel like so great and it feels rocky, I feel it now. I can really feel it really quickly. And so I'm like, okay, you know, when you're exhausted and you're working on something and you keep pushing and pushing, and then now you start undoing your work, you start second guessing the thing that you've already created, you know, or like you might start to unravel, like you're like, oh, like throw it all out. It's all terrible, whatever. I can just, even that alone this week, I sensed myself doing that. And I was like, okay, I have to push away. I have to go for another walk and then come back. So my perspective is different, you know, so
taking the breaks, knowing when you need breaks sooner, taking breaks like with less doubt that you deserve it or you should, or in the long run, you just have more, do you have more faith that if the break now is going to give you the better later?
Absolutely.
Ooh, I should write that down. The break now gives you the better later. I should write that down.
You know what, Margo, it's all about quotes. Lately, I've been writing down things that come out of my friends' mouths or my own, where I also wrote down the other day, I didn't get to where I am by staying comfortable.
Interesting.
Right? Yeah. So.
Well, one of the things I want to get your opinion on is resiliency. So we're talking about it really personally. We're talking about, you know, you and I and your experience and personal resiliency. You have this, you've probably talked with hundreds, if not thousands of people who are going through incredible challenges, and especially the unsheltered people who are going through whatever any of us are going through, plus they're unsheltered and dealing with all of that. What have you noticed about the people who get through those hard times? What do they do better than the people who really can't get themselves out of a hard time, or they can't? What have you noticed amongst especially the unsheltered people? What have you noticed the ones that are taking good care of themselves and ready to take a next step and heal and get to a better place? What do they do better?
I would say that in the homeless community, hope is not really a prevalent kind of vibe. Having hope and having a belief that it can change. Without hope, it's not just like a catchphrase. I mean, if you don't feel hopeful about your future or about yourself, you know, we are what we think. We are what we manifest, and or we manifest through our thoughts and our thinking. You know, and it's impossible to think that way when you're being ticketed and attacked at night and you're exhausted and you're suffering. So I think what's really important to state is that we are a group of people with lived experience who understand the situation, and we welcome people to just start to be and just be together And as you're together in a safe space and there's a great R&B soul funk band and you're singing tunes and you're writing your story at, songwriting workshop, or you're singing a solo with the choir, or you're having a great lunch and you're coming week after week, now you're seeing, number one, that people are getting off the street. It takes an unbelievable amount of focus and energy and drive to come from the sidewalk to the way that homelessness is handled. Mm-hmm. So it's complicated. It's not always a loving, customer service oriented with dignity and you know what I'm saying, with respect and how can I really help you? It's service providers are impacted like tremendously. Everybody's maxed. And the normal way to get through that journey is to go into a shelter. And in the shelters, you can't like leave your things. You can't so now it's not like you're safe from the street. You're still, now you're in a large congregate kind of shelter space, and maybe you're more vulnerable because, you're not hiding somewhere in the community behind, bushes or a tree or something. So the normal way that you get from the street to housing is you get into some sort of shelter and then into a housing program, and then you get a voucher, and then you're trying to use it to a place that a landlord will let you move in, that will accept this kind of it. Okay. Every day, every second, every hour of that journey is like riddled with complications and challenges. And if you're afraid, and if you've been out there for a long time, it's really hard. It's really hard to go through that. So we are understanding of that, and we align with people when they're ready, when they see for themselves that they deserve it. That's the piece. That's the piece that has to happen. And that doesn't just happen through a program being offered. Like, you have to actually build that back up through example, that you are deserving, you are capable of your own healing, and we're here to help walk with you and make that a reality. So I'm actually here in the office with our fabulous case manager, who has an incredible story, went through his own experiences, lived experience, and he's got this cool, calm vibe, Enrique, and he connects with people. And so when you're talking with somebody, and all of a sudden you realize, oh, that person also went through my situation. Now that's peer-to-peer, right? And then from that relationship, it's something miraculous happens. People start to feel whole. They start to feel seen. They feel they're rebuilding their soul. I mean, through, I feel like on this podcast, in this realm, we can talk about maybe shamanic kind of things, but horrible things that happen to you in life, really horrible things in your childhood or here or there, it like breaks apart your soul. It like fragments you. And then you're disjointed and like not a whole person. And so this is the space for us to talk about how we're really feeling, how to really navigate services for people, because that's just pretty much impossible. Like I said, without an advocate, it's pretty impossible to do that. But we help people that way, and at their speed and when they're ready, and we create that space together. We really do together. It's not just me or a couple of us. All of us show up because we all want healing. We all want to feel better, and we all want to be our best version of ourselves, which is cool.
Wow. So resiliency, some of the things that help people are finding ways to sustain hope through increased togetherness, through seeing people being seen as an individual and what you're going through, and then being addressed as a peer and addressed as an equal. Having enough dignity that you feel entitled to wellness, and having enough experiences where you can sort of pull together some of these fragmented parts of your past, and weave together a personality that's ready for the next more joy, basically, a personality that's ready for more joy. And I knew this was going to be fabulous. I'm trying to keep the podcast about half an hour. I knew this was going to be absolutely incredible. But I don't know if I have time to mention this, but today it was really, it's not just unsheltered people that are struggling. So for example, today we have to keep an eye out for each other, especially these past couple of years have been really hard, and we don't know what the next couple of years are going to be like. But I was watching one of my friends on Facebook posting things. He's like, well, I don't want to wake up in the morning. He's saying all these things that are super concerning. I don't want to wake up in the morning. I want to just go somewhere and disappear. I want to, and I'm like, okay, I need to go talk to this person, because, that's, to me, that as a person who's lost loved ones to suicide or unintentional suicide through neglect and dangerous activities, things like that, I'm like, all my little red flags were like ding, ding, ding. So I tried to connect with him today, and he's talking about the things that are hard. And he has a job. He has a job, but it's hard. He has a body, but it's got pain. He's not, anyhow, I mean, people can be struggling deeply, deeply. And I tried to just stabilize him, try to let him know how grateful we were that his friends on Facebook, that he'd said how he was feeling, contacting him one-on-one. But ultimately, one of the things I did, because he does currently have a job, he does currently have a home, and you're always taking a risk. When you talk to someone who's struggling, you always take a risk, because if you say something wrong or it doesn't land right, you might make them worse. It's just hard to know what to say. So that's why a lot of people don't talk to people who are struggling, because it is really hard to know what to say. And you want to get something right that helps them feel loved and supported. And there's a lot of ways to mess up. There's a lot of ways to say something wrong. So I wasn't sure how this was going to land, but I said, oh, I'm about to talk to Steph Johnson. And I sent him the video clip that I hope everybody sees. I'm going to put it in the show notes here of your homeless choir on stage, at every single age person, every single race person. It's a complete mixture of everybody. You would never think that all those people have this in common. And they're on the stage singing the song they wrote. And then it's a sob fest when they win this award. It was so uplifting. And these are people who at the moment have probably some of the challenges similar to his, and they were trying to figure out where they were going to live. So I didn't mean to, anyhow, I just thought maybe it'd be super uplifting to him. And I hope it landed that way. But
do we know yet how it landed? Has he seen it?
I think he did see it. And I don't want to, sometimes you just try your best. You just throw your best out there. And today, when I was talking to someone whose wellness was really of concern to me, the best was throwing out access to you, and access to how you've inspired people, and access to people singing and laughing and hugging each other and crying at the success of what they accomplished, because this woman showed up with a guitar at the unsheltered encampment,
yeah,
and said, hey, I bet we're all going to know these songs, and started singing with everybody.
Well, too, the flow of voices was very much like, how can I help? What do I have to offer? I'm a musician, and I know how to throw a party, and I know how to make and I know how to make some great food, and I know how to put it all together and roll out the red carpet and really see the individual and welcome them. And that attracted more people like that, and then more people like that, and then more people came in for choir, more people came in for healing. Now it's like not just people living on the street or in their cars or in shelters. It's people now living in low-income housing in the neighborhood who, still live on such a tight budget, and, are so close to homelessness still, right? And then there's people who come like you, Margo, that are like, hey, I want to hold a songbook with my fellow unsheltered neighbor, because we are the same. This could happen to me. And so all that lifts each other and feels, sometimes people say, oh, the homeless choir, and it's not quite accurate. Not everybody in the choir is unsheltered, but everybody has had an experience with it, and some version of it. Maybe they've, recovered from that 20 years ago. But how we recover is together, and how we are going to heal is through art. And when you are in a hospital, if you have a little breakdown, you're going to be in group therapy, and you will be having periods of working on art. This is like basic like always there and not really talked about, you know? It's not really honored and valued in our world, what art does. And so we're using music as the medium to rebuild the self, you know? So I'm so happy I could talk to you. And yeah, we could talk for a long, there's a lot of things to talk.
Well, let's get together for another talk, and maybe in person, God willing, the way things could be changing. And everything about what you do will be linked in the show notes, and I'll be really happy to share it with anyone who passes the pathway of where I'm, you know, anyone I have outreach to. And I just want to thank you for everything you do, and thank you for taking care of yourself so well that you can
do it,
you know, do it and enjoy it. The joy of wellness. It's so much more fun to feel good. So part of the self-care is that it's so much more fun. Feeling good is so much more fun.
And the choir is doing so much better, not just the organization, but the people in the choir, because they're seeing from me by example that by putting myself first, it is not something to be ashamed of or think that is selfish or out of the question. If we don't do those things, like if I were to continue on with the mission, sacrificing my life, I'm willing to die for it. My therapist goes, well, Steph, if you die, how can you keep the mission going, right? So this is a very, very important piece. And I'm just so grateful to you, Margo, for showing up at my house that period of my life and being my friend and being a part of the journey. The last couple of years have been really something. So thank you so much for what you do. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Steph. And here's to the next couple of years. And we're going to do it. All righty. Best wishes to you, and we will follow up very soon.
All right. Thank you.
Take care.